Obviously. I grew up with siblings, okay?
Good evening. The September 23rd, 2019 agenda meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Here.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Here.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger publishing companies on January 10, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Okay, thank you. We will dispense with items 4 and 5 until the regular meeting and go directly into items for discussion. First up, miscellaneous engineering items.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just a quick update on a couple of projects going on in town. With regard to the Church Street Force Main project, the contractor's made some good progress on the work out there. He today installed the line stop sleeve, which is going to allow him to start setting up a bypass of the portion of the force main that's deteriorated. He's going to start setting that bypass up tomorrow, and then he can work on basically removing the deteriorated portion of the force main and reconstructing it. So we've had some success on that project. With regard to the electrical substation demo next door here, that work is progressing well. The building superstructure has been taken down, and the demolition of the yard is about 60% complete. And we expect that job to pretty much be wrapped up in the next couple of weeks. And on the public works site across the street, the base paving has been substantially completed in the front of the building, and he's now prepping the yard in the rear of the building for the base paving back there. And that's all I have.
Great. Any questions for the engineer?
I have one. Do you know the status of the water tower with the repainting or whatever the hell we're doing?
Right now, the contractor's setting up the communication between the tank and Elkins Lane. There's no real physical work going on at the site right now. And he still has some site work to do out there, the driveway repairs and the lawn repairs. That work's going to be continuing this fall.
Any other questions? Seeing none, that'll take care of the miscellaneous engineering items, Lou?
Yes.
Okay. Audience comments. Please limit your questions to things discussed at this evening's agenda meeting. With that, I will open the floor. Seeing,
Phil Zambrana, 40 Van Loo Avenue. Lou, could you tell me on the Church Street work? The residents all know like what's going on, so you don't need to close off the street or anything, or the contract doesn't need to close off the street to let them in and out?
No, all the work's pretty much taking place
In the
towards
back?
the low end of the street.
Okay. Has anyone said anything on Church Street?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And the demolition of the substation, the old substation,
Yes.
is that included in the costs for the new municipal complex?
It was actually included in the cost for the new substation.
I was under the impression there was no funding for that. It wasn't included.
No, we were able to use the same funding source
Right.
because they saw that as an applicable portion to the scope of the project for the new substation.
So there is no additional cost to the town. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's something that was included in.
No, it wasn't
No.
included originally.
But it's
Okay.
using the same funding source as
Right.
the construction of the new substation.
When we constructed the new substation, it was not incorporated.
It was not part of his contract.
Why? I
So
don't
we
know.
so we included in the new
No,
again.
no, no. Just hold on and let me explain. When we constructed the new substation, the cost of demolition of the old was not included.
That was my understanding.
Okay. Towards the end of that contract, we said, is there any money left, and can we use monies to do this? Now, the exact quantity of money left over from that contract, I'm not sure. However, Mr. McClellan went back to the state and said, under the same funding source, can we utilize monies from that contract, the contract for this new substation up the street, to demolish the old one. And they said, yes, you can do that. So they gave us a pretty good price of about $100,000 to finally demolish all that stuff. And it made sense because of all the old transformers and things that were over there and the potentials for PCBs and what have you.
Okay.
So let's take it down.
That
Has
would-
nothing to do with anything.
That
across
that
the
was
street.
my understanding, I just wanted to make sure about that. And about 100 grand? Give or
I'd
take?
be lying to you if I told you I knew exactly what the cost was tonight.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none, close audience comments. I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So be it.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Ligotti, that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, 1 minute, we'll head into the regular meeting. Okay, the September 23rd, 2019 meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Here.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Ligotti?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Here.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 present.
Will the clerk please read the meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on January 10, 2019. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Thank you. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by a salute to our nation's flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next on this evening's agenda is minutes. We have the consideration of the September 9th, 2019 meeting. You've read the minutes. What is your pleasure?
Move that these minutes be adopted as typed.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Ligotti, that the minutes are accepted as typed. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Herbert is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Okay, next we have audience comments and questions on resolutions and bills and claims listed on this evening's agenda. If you have any questions or comments, please use the microphone in the center of the room. Give your name and address for the record when recognized. Remember, comments and questions are limited to the resolutions and bills and claims listed on the agenda. With that, I will open audience comment.
Phil Zambrana, 40 Van Loo Avenue. Could I get a little bit more detail on the resolution number 19254, which says that we're adopting the borough's affirmative marketing plan? And what that entails, what that's reference to?
I can address that.
Sure.
The marketing plan is part of the ongoing litigation that most municipalities in New Jersey have had to take part in, which is the affordable housing litigation. And in order for the municipality to satisfy the court, which is currently monitoring this, we have to pass not only this one, but also the 258, which you see is a spending plan. The affirmative marketing plan is essentially a plan that lays out how a municipality goes about marketing its affordable units that come up. So it specifies what newspapers it has to go to, what large employers in the area the marketing has to be sent to in terms of advertising, so to speak, or noting the availability of these units. So it's all based upon directives that we've received from the special master who's managing the affordable housing litigation in Middlesex County.
So is it just going to be in periodicals such as newspapers, magazines?
There's also radio coverage. There's notices, specific notices that go out to particular special interest groups, and that's all set forth within the plan itself.
Will that be posted at all on the Milltown website at some point?
Yes, it will.
And do we know when that marketing plan is going to be available?
It can be posted with the resolutions tomorrow. Or to the website. It'll be posted once the resolutions are signed and posted to the website.
So it's already a done deal. The marketing plan is just passing it tonight and then?
It's passing it tonight. It's been approved by the special master
Okay.
at Superior Court.
But I think it's also probably pertinent to mention that it's essentially a, select box. It's not like we developed some plan
Right,
and
right,
spent
right.
months doing so.
Right.
It's following
Yeah.
a fairly similar format for all municipalities tailored to us because it mentions the local newspapers,
Right.
local radio stations, et cetera.
So you mentioned that it goes hand in hand with 19258, and I didn't really have a question about 19258, but now I do.
It's actually not hand in hand, but it's also part of the same body of action that the municipality has to take towards affordable housing. So 258 deals with the affordable housing, any money that comes into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and you'll see an ordinance on for that, Affordable Housing Trust. Any money that comes in, the municipality has to designate how that money is spent. Again, same thing approved by the special master, designating how certain monies get spent.
Okay, so when I see spending plan, in my head right away I see dollars.
Dollars that come in for new development.
So this isn't like a budgetary thing.
It's nothing, it's not borough money.
This could change.
It's not money that's being generated by
Okay.
taxpayer dollars.
Okay.
It's by new development.
Okay. Then I also had a question about 256, which is capital budget amendment number 1.
The capital budget amendment goes hand in hand with the bond ordinance introduction for the sewer main replacement.
East Church Street?
Correct.
And
So-
no other part of the water sewer?
No, it's just for that project because the capital budget in the budget that was adopted didn't include anything for that. So in order to pass the bond ordinance, we have to have that in the budget.
And that's approximately,
It's estimated at 500,000.
okay. Okay.
Is that the high end, or it could be lower, correct?
Yeah, we're anticipating it to come in lower, but it's a conservative number so that in case it comes in higher than, that'll be all inclusive. We won't have to come back out to, amend it. That's what we're trying to avoid.
And then I guess the last question I had was 19257, which is some sort of an agreement with a law firm, labor attorney, not to exceed 17,500.
Yeah, the law firm that we had utilized had in certain ways disbanded, at least their labor department. department.
Okay.
So now this resolution is where the labor attorney that was specifically handling Borough of Milltown, Andrea Wyatt, she has now gone to this law firm, so we're just designating that law firm going forward for the rest of the year.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close audience comments. Next on the agenda is bills and claims. Will the clerk please read resolution 19-242 by title only, please?
Authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Milltown in the total amount of $725,230.48.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second it.
I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Council President Dixon, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Okay, next on the agenda is reports of standing committees and introduction of resolutions. Consent resolution has been prepared to cover the 15 resolutions listed on this evening's agenda. If any member of the council wants any of those acted upon individually, please state the number of the resolution and it will be removed from the consent resolution.
1477, 1477.
What?
That's
That's
an
not part
ordinance.
of the
Oh, I'm
consent.
sorry. It's even further down. My apologies.
Resolution.
Nothing there.
254, 258, and 257. I'm not sorry. 257 is all right.
Any others? Okay, seeing none, we will have the reading of the consent resolution accepting numbers 19-254 and 258. With that, will the clerk please read the consent resolution?
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council, the council may establish a consent agenda for any regular or special meeting, and whereas the Borough Clerk has posted a consent agenda for this meeting, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the consent agenda previously prepared by the Borough Clerk be approved without the necessity of having the individual resolutions read by the Borough Clerk.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second it.
I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Council President Dixon, that the resolution is adopted. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read resolution 19-254 by title only, please?
Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown adopting the borough's affirmative marketing plan.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Legati, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, given that this was in part discussed in closed session, but now here we are with it in hand. We have no issues discussing this specific document. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just, for Mr. Zambrana's sake, I just wanted to make sure that we could show this and everything. It does run through that we are in the COA region for Hunterdon County, Middlesex County, and Somerset County, that we will be advertising for certain, basically minority groups, not others. It'll have online listings and which radio stations and print documents where you can find information about this. Really what it pertains to is Ford Avenue and the affordable housing units that'll come up. I, for one, am not a fan of affordable housing. I know I worked my butt off to afford a house in Milltown, and the minute I started working, I wasn't able to get affordable housing. So for that reason and that reason alone, I will be voting no on this one. I understand it needs to pass, but I just don't accept affordable housing being shoved down our throats. So.
Anyone else?
Councilman Revelinsky, just one thing I just want to clear up. You're on the Ford Avenue Redevelopment Agency, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're on the Ford Avenue Redevelopment Agency, and we do an important piece of legislation here, and you're going to grandstand and say no tonight. Okay.
Anyone else?
So just so the public understands that during the meeting, the attorneys let us know that if we do not pass this and get it back to the special master by the end of October, we will lose our immunity and could be open to even more affordable housing. So we really have no choice but to pass it, because otherwise we will not be fulfilling our obligations.
Just so everybody understands, it's not limited to ethnicity. It's open to anyone who qualifies.
But that box isn't marked on this.
It still doesn't change the fact that it's open to anyone who qualifies, regardless.
With that, will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
No.
Mr. Mayor, we have 4 ayes and 1 no.
So moved. Will the clerk please read 19-258 by title only, please?
A resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown adopting the borough spending plan.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
Sorry.
We have a tie down
Tie.
the end. Who was that? Randy, were you in on that?
Yeah, but he's closer.
No. We got a motion by Councilman Farkas, seconded by Councilman Legati, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I pulled this one. This again goes to COA obligations. Well, this one actually took a little bit of difficulty in understanding, but it's a good thing. Basically, if you don't commit to your affordable housing requirement when developing within the borough, there are means, which is you have to pay the borough an additional 2.5%. Unfortunately, that means that you're essentially encouraging someone who's redeveloping to put in affordable housing. But on the plus side, the monies that are utilized by not doing so can be distributed for other things around town and for folks who may be financially strapped and who have been here for quite some time and need to do some work. So just so people understand what this is about, by passing this, we're essentially developing a fund to help us help others in town from people who don't put in affordable housing units.
Great, and for clarification, it is not money that is tax money from taxpayers, it is money
Builder
from
money.
developers. With that, anyone else? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Next, we will hear from the report of the Department of Finance, Administration, and Planning, chaired by Council President Ronald Lee.
Nothing this meeting.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from the Department of Public Safety, chaired by Councilman Nicholas Legati.
No report this month.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from the Department of Utilities, chaired by Councilwoman Trina Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a few updates from the utility department. CME provided an overview of the force main. The utility department was hoping that the line stop hardware was going to be delivered from the factory and installation taking place today, but Lou gave us the update on that. The gravity drainage system they installed to collect the leaking has been working very well. They also spread lime all over the affected area, so there doesn't seem to be any odor issues. As soon as we hear, the utility department hears from Montana, we will put up a news flash and let folks know. And also, to answer your question, we did contact all of the homeowners on East Church to just keep them updated what was going on. Rich's Tree Service will begin line clearance on the southwest portion of town starting today. An engineering meeting took place last week for utility connections for the Heritage Plaza site on Riders Lane. The developed property will have 5 buildings with mixed commercial space. The street lights, they've been aggressively repairing all the street lights that are currently aware of. I personally put in a report of concern about a street light right in front of my house, and it works really well. You get an email from the director of the utilities and then from the utility office, and so I encourage people to do that. By the end of this week, they should have about a dozen that have been repaired or replaced. The utility director met with Beach Electric at the DPW firehouse to go over the electric services, and that he will be ordering the necessary metering and line construction materials required to energize the new buildings. The new chlorine analyzer and control system installed at Elkins Lane as a part of the water tower rehab project has been functioning well. The chlorine levels have been consistent, and a balanced delivery has resulted in less chemicals overall. I just wanted to give an update. About a month ago, I sent a letter to the Middlesex County Board of Chosen Freeholders to ask for their advice, counsel, and support for our utility issues, most notably the force main. That was before the latest break. Following up after the break and the costly repairs and the need to bond for the repairs, I just went to the meeting last week to update them, and they said they had received a letter and directed it to their business administrator for potential collaboration with the borough. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and that's awesome news. Okay, next is the Department of Public Works and Recycling, chaired by Councilwoman Kerber. She's not here this evening. Does anyone have her report?
Yes, there is no report this evening.
Yes, we have no bananas. Okay, Department of Environmental, Health and Social Services, chaired by Councilman Randy Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A report from the Lawrence Brook Watershed and the Milltown Environmental Commission about invasive species removal on Janet Court. I think about 7 people did some invasive species removal on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12:30. One of the species was bamboo, in a large area from edge to residential area, east into the park and down to the Sawmill Brook. Possibly 1/4 to 1/3 of an acre was involved. Located at the western end of the public area, including the slope down to the Sawmill Brook. The participants removed a couple dozen fronds of bamboo, some as much as 1 inch in diameter. And for the future, much more to cut and a lot of roots to be removed, and that will be an ongoing process. Secondly, another invasive species called the tree of heaven. I won't even tell you the Latin name for it.
Arlanthus.
Yes, very good.
Arlanthus.
Atlantis altissima, since you asked. Grows along much of the eastern 3/4 of the park area of Janet Court, mostly near the top of the slope down to the brook. 21 trees were removed, varying in height from 4 feet to as much as 20 feet, and caliper, where that's the girth, from 1/2 inch to approximately 1.5 inches. Markers with a green flag were put on each removal site so that we can easily see new growth at the site in the future, basically to see if they come back. 9 larger trees were identified with a cross sprayed on the trunk for the Borough of Milltown to remove. That will get done as people are available, and caliper as much as 9 inches and heights as high as 40 to 50 feet. And in the future, they're going to revisit the sites in approximately a month to observe any regrowth and further visit in succeeding months as necessary. Secondly, I have a report from the Middlesex County Board of Health. This is a Rabies Advisory from September 20th, 2019. The Middlesex County Office of Health Services is reporting that a bat tested positive for rabies in Milltown, Middlesex County, in the vicinity of Peachtree Court and Blueberry Drive. This is the 8th rabid animal reported within Middlesex County for 2019, and the first rabid animal reported in Milltown. The Middlesex County Office of Health Services continues to monitor rabies cases within the municipality. Residents should report wild animals showing signs of unusual behavior to the police department. Additionally, it is recommended that residents should avoid contact with wild animals and immediately report any bites from wild or domestic animals to your local health department and consult a physician as soon as possible. Finally, be sure that all family pets are up to date on their rabies vaccinations. And then just for public consumption, rabies is caused by a virus which can affect all warm-blooded mammals, including man. The rabies virus is found in the saliva of a rabid animal and is transmitted by bite or possibly by contamination of an open cut. New Jersey is enzootic, don't know what that means, for raccoon and bat variants of rabies. Bats, skunks, groundhogs, foxes, cats, and dogs represent about 95% of animals diagnosed with rabies in the United States. And that concludes the environmental report for tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from the Department of Recreation, chaired by Councilman Richard Revelinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not much to report, still plugging away at getting Community Pass up and running. Hopefully, things will go a lot more smoothly now that we have, as of tonight, approved for the full-time position within the Recreation Department. I'm glad to see that the whole council got behind here, because I think in the future this is going to be a big benefit to make sure the department runs a lot more smoothly. Besides that, I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is introduction of ordinances, and tonight we have 6. Will the clerk please read ordinance number 19-1476 by title, please?
An ordinance to amend Chapter 2 Administration, Section 100, Fees for Municipal Services of revised general ordinances of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this ordinance. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be,
Yeah, this ordinance.
take it from here. That this ordinance be
Adopted on first reading.
adopted on first reading.
Published
and
according to
published
law.
according to law, and available at our next meeting, October 15th, 2019, 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Councilwoman Mayer, that the ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled meeting on October 15th, 2019, which is a Tuesday,
Tuesday.
at 7 p.m. Borough Hall. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'm glad to see that this one is moving forward. The appropriation amount of $625,000 includes a grant money, which some of you may have seen online. Grant money's in their amount of $300,000+ to do some work over there, very well needed over at Church
That's
Street.
the next resolution.
That's what do you mean that's the
Next
next? It was 1477, isn't it?
7-6.
Are you?
6.
I apologize. I do apologize. I thought we were on 7-7.
Well, now you don't want to make a motion for it.
No, I'll still make a motion for that one. That's all right.
All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon,
Aye.
Councilman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent, Councilman Legati,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read ordinance number 19-1477 by title, please?
Bond ordinance providing for improvements to Tracy Drive, appropriating $625,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $231,000 bonds and notes to finance a portion of the cost thereof, authorized in and by the Borough of Milltown and the County of Middlesex, New Jersey.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this ordinance. What is your pleasure?
I move that this ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and the public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled meeting, Tuesday, October 15, at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Legati, seconded by Councilman Revelinsky, that the ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting on October 15th, Tuesday, 2019, 7 p.m. Borough Hall. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you can take my notes from the previous comment, roll them on to this one. This is a good thing with the amount of money that's coming in from the state. This looks like it's going to be a very beneficial project to the residents at Tracy Drive who've been suffering for some time. And to Councilman Legati, terrific job introducing this one.
No problem.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon,
Aye.
Councilman Farkas,
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent, Councilman Legati,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read ordinance 19-1478 by title only, please?
Bond ordinance providing for improvements to Church Street Pump Station, Forest, Maine, appropriating $500,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $500,000 bonds and notes to finance a portion of the cost thereof, authorized in and by the Borough of Milltown and the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this ordinance. What is your pleasure?
Move that this ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting on Tuesday, October 15th, 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Legati, seconded by Councilman Revelinsky, that the ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting, October 15th, Tuesday, 2019, 7 p.m. Borough Hall. Is there any discussion?
What, do we have, are we going to get a final amount once the work is done?
Yeah, once the project is completed, then we can, we're only gonna borrow and whatever we spent.
Okay,
So then we would cancel the rest.
okay.
Anyone else? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read ordinance 19-1479 by title, please?
An ordinance of the Borough, Council of the Borough of Milltown amending Borough Code Chapter 34, Comprehensive Development.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this ordinance. What is your pleasure?
Move that this ordinance be adopted on first
Reading.
first reading, published according to law, and that at our next meeting on Tuesday, October 15th. That's when next come back up.
Yeah, 7 PM Borough Hall?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Legati, that the ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting on October 15,
Tuesday.
2019, Tuesday, 7 PM Borough Hall. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, again, this all deals with the affordable housing stuff, and I know we need to move forward with it, but I believe for any residents at home who get a handle on this thing and understand what it entails, it's quite extensive. We are going to be getting feedback before we adopt this. We're going to be getting feedback from the planning board. Am I correct?
Yes.
That is correct.
As well as 1480 and 1481.
Correct.
Anyone else? Clerk, please call the roll.
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read ordinance 19-1480 by title, please?
An ordinance of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown amending Borough Code Chapter 34, Comprehensive Development.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this ordinance. What is your pleasure?
I move that this ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled meeting on Tuesday, October 15th, 7 PM in council chambers.
Can I get an amen?
Second.
Second.
All right. I have a motion made by Councilman Legati. We got an amen down the end. By Councilwoman Mayor, that this ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled meeting on October 15th, 2019, which is a Tuesday, 7 PM Borough Hall. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is still absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read ordinance 19-1481 by title only, please?
An ordinance of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown amending the redevelopment plan known as the Milltown Ford Avenue redevelopment plan.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this ordinance. What is your pleasure?
I move that this ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting on Tuesday, October 15th, 7 PM in council chambers. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Legati, seconded by Councilwoman Mayor, that the ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting, which is October 15th, 2019, Tuesday, 7 PM at Borough Hall. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Is there any old business to come before the council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a follow-up. At our last meeting, I am the liaison to the Board of Education, and Councilman Revelinsky had a question about the use of facilities, so I reached out to them. They do have a policy for use of facilities, so it's broken up into community and non-community based. So the community-based ones pay one fee, the non-community pay a higher fee. Those use of facility charges are to augment the cost of janitors and utilities and to maintain the, like Parkview gym floors. They also, they pay the Borough of Milltown for some things, we pay them for other things. You know, that's something that could certainly be discussed going forward on how we share, because really it all comes out of the taxpayer's pocket, regardless of who pays what. But if you'd like, I will speak to you offline about the particular organization that is looking to use that to determine, you know, whether it is community-based or not, and how that fee schedule could be adjusted accordingly.
Well, thank you for getting back to me. I mean, it's definitely a community-based organization. They're talking about a Milltown travel team, open to only Milltown residents as a tryout team. And you're right, it's a shame it all comes out of the same pockets already. It's just unfortunate that if you want to use the facilities that our tax dollars already pay for, we have to pay extra, and that's whether it's a rec program here in the town or whether it's, you know, a traveling team that wants to gain access and have a place to travel. So it's unfortunate that that there's these fees associated with it. I would think with the budgets in hand, you know, the janitorial fees and the maintenance of floors are already included. So, but thank you for looking into it.
Any other old business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just a follow-up, last meeting, public safety, the financial numbers are in on getting some speed bumps for certain streets in Milltown. The next step for me is to, I've had a short discussion with Jeanette once. I think we'll get a little longer discussion with Jeanette to see if we can find the money somewhere, and I think we can. I'm not promising anything. And then after that, if everything goes positive with that, I think I might hold an open public safety meeting, invite some of the people from those specific streets, and have a little bit of an open discussion.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other old business?
So, and Councilman Ligotti, I mentioned this to you, we had a discussion at the last meeting about the flashing pedestrian signs. I was driving in Clark the other day, and they had the same flashing lights that we had, except underneath it says state law yield to pedestrians. So I said, maybe, you know, because it seems like, and I just heard from somebody again yesterday that was over by Maria's, somebody pressed the flashing lights and cars kept going through as somebody was halfway through the intersection. So, you know, people should know what they mean 100%, but we might want to just take a look to just add another little sign to say, by the way, this is a state law that you're required to stop when someone's trying to cross with these flashing lights.
I think it's a great idea. Jeanette, if you wouldn't mind assisting me with that.
Of course.
I think we have to first verify with the police chief that we can put a sign like that it is against the state law. I don't remember the exact particulars of it.
What, failure to yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk?
Yeah,
That's state law.
it's a state law. So I think if we get Ralph to get some signage for us, I think we'll be fine with that.
Thank you.
Any other old business?
Nick, Councilman Ligotti, thank you for looking into that. I know that this is I've seen those signs around as well. I've also noticed in some other towns, they actually have the lights in the crosswalk themselves. I think they're a little more costly to install, but I, as a driver, definitely see those flashing in front of me, you know, on the road surface, a lot more than up off to the side. So if we do have plans to do any of that in the future, perhaps that's another style we might want to look into. And I think we're going to probably need to do something for across the street as well. In your discussions, did you bring up at all about 25 miles an hour on Main Street? Slipped your mind on that one?
I did.
Okay. Oh, you did?
I did.
And, okay.
I'm very cautiously going to say this, the county is not recommending dropping the speed limit on a county road to 25 miles an hour. It's a 30-mile-an-hour road, and they are recommending that we absolutely do not do it. They highly recommend it.
Right, and they did, they are providing additional signage to be put on the road, but they're not entertaining reducing the speed limit.
It's their call to make.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other old business?
Sorry.
It's unfortunate.
New business? Any new business to come before the council?
Well, I just wanted to follow up, new, old. I know at the last meeting that we had, I had presented on the monthly meter reading. Unfortunately, the auditor has not run the numbers for us yet. We do have to plug those into Edmunds, our operating software. Jeanette, I believe you reached out to find out what the cost for that would be.
Yeah, they have not provided an estimate just as of yet, but I did reach out to them and they are working on that.
Okay. I did take the liberty of running the numbers myself, and while I'm no whiz with numbers completely, Excel is pretty darn good. So if you compute everything out, it comes out to the same exact dollar amount. But again, we'll wait until Edmunds runs that, but I believe there's going to be a fee associated with having Edmunds do that. So hopefully everyone's on board with at least listening to Edmunds and willing to pay them to see if it works.
Any other new business?
Lead services, I have a question. A resident approached me the other day and was asking about our lead services. He is one of the folks who is in the program for the sampling. He would like to replace his lead service, and he brought up a notion to me regarding they've taken extra steps throughout the time to do the sampling, and they've been inconvenienced, and they're doing, you know, all this in the best interest of the borough. And now that we're not required to do a treatment system, to install a treatment system, unless we fail again, what are we doing in the meantime to make sure we don't fail again? And he brought up a very good point, which was, he said, look, if the town was willing to cover from the monies that we would have spent on a treatment system for only the people that are actually participating in the plan, to help assist those folks with replacing their lead services, whether it's just the street portion, and then they would take care of everything from the curb over to the home, because the street portion seems to be the part that they have a hard time swallowing, if it's something this council would entertain. So I felt that it was a halfway decent suggestion. In fact, I think it was a little bit better than halfway decent. I thought it was fair, considering if we fail again within 24 months, we're going to have to put in a treatment system. So we want to hedge our bets and not fail, and it seems that all the failures occur as a result of those folks with lead services. And out of the homes that we sample, I believe there's about 10. Randy, is that correct?
I think 9.
Nine homes that have lead services. So if we get rid of those, and these are the folks that we're sampling already, then perhaps we've got a really good shot at not failing again. And again, this would be, you know, a small portion of the overall costs. I know we discussed here previously about forcing people to remove those lead services, which is obviously going to decrease the number of people that actually come forward and tell us they have those, so we can comply with state requirements for sampling. But while we know of 9, and these people are actively sampling, I think it would behoove us to at least consider how we can assist with getting those ones replaced. We've seen monies pour in from Senator Booker. He got an amazing $200,000 from the federal government to help Newark. We've also seen the counties up there bring in millions and millions of dollars to help those residents. So before we're stuck putting more treatment in, I'd like to really continue the conversation and see what we can do to encourage the residents here in town to reduce it, because that treatment system, if we put it in, it's going to be an endless cost for us. So if we can avoid it, I think spending a couple of bucks to help avoid that would be beneficial. Anyone else?
So we could certainly put that on the agenda for the next utility committee meeting, and maybe a bigger discussion about the lead services in general that are on the street. Because I know we've talked a lot about lead services, and I've learned a lot by being on the council, and I learned even more just last week because I had a water service leak. So when they originally came out, they said that I had a copper service line into my house. However, when they came and turned off the water into my house, it turned out the leak wasn't in from the curb to the house, it was from the main to the curb, and that was a lead line. So how would, when we talked about how to know whether you have lead service, it says, look at your service line into the house. Mine was copper, which must have been replaced years ago. However, when they dug up, and I live on Richter Avenue, which is a concrete street, and it was a really big job to dig up that street, it was lead service in there. And the gentleman who did the repair said that years ago, the responsibility was from the curb to your house for the homeowner. However, because of our deteriorating infrastructure, now the responsibility is from the main to the house. So, I mean, it's not like homeowners, it's not like I could go and do preventive maintenance in my concrete street, you know, let me get my pickaxe out and see whether I have lead service or not. So, I mean, we are, you know, taxing people more, our infrastructure is getting older, and yet we still have to pay thousands of dollars to fix something that is underneath the street. So, I mean, it's obviously these people that are doing the sampling are affected, but so are many, many other homeowners who have lead service into their, and may not even be aware. That I wasn't aware, you know, I was told that I had copper, and it wasn't until this happened that I had to have an emergency repair done. So I think it's definitely something that we should address, and we will put it on the meeting and see what needs to be done, because, you know, people that have that are potentially have a huge bill to repair that. But how we do that is another question.
Okay, any other new business? Hearing none, audience comments, please state your name and address for identification on the record. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Alan Godber, Environmental Commission and Lawrence Brook Watershed Partnership. First, I'd like to thank Councillman Farkas for reporting on the invasive species removal that we did last Saturday. That was 7 people, 2.5 hours, and we removed 21 trees, which is pretty efficient, I think, and also some bamboo. Just wanted to highlight the importance of, I mean, there are invasive species all over the place. We were totally amazed when we were going around 3 or 4 years ago with interns, teaching them about this. But that was just the principle of it at the time. And what we were amazed at was how much we found. You start to look at one thing and you suddenly find there's 50 of the same thing, or there's 200 down there. The scary thing about Tree of Heaven is that it is said to grow 5 feet a year, typically. And some of the ones that we saw, there's one that's almost 50 feet high. I think 3 years ago that was no more than 10 feet, but I could be wrong. But it's maybe it's grown more than 5 feet here. But the scary thing is, it's trying to take over the other trees because it's trying to crowd them out. But it does one thing worse that not too many trees do, but it puts out poisons in the roots. So we find out when we read the research information, which is intended to kill off all the other vegetation around it. So very important to get it out of there. And you're supposed to do it in the summer. Well, we were debating whether to do it right now, but it's still summer, right, essentially. So that's why we did this last Saturday. We are told in all the books that we read, you should got to go after this for at least 12 months. And you have to be there and keep cutting it like once a month because it's going to try and regrow. So we're starting to learn about this, and hopefully we'll get some others cut in other parts of the town and other parts of the watershed as well. But we'll be looking for volunteers to come and help us as well. I think we had about 15 tools, so it was easy enough to do. The bamboo is not such a serious problem. It just, as you probably know, it grows by roots, through the roots, but it's annoying because it just keeps growing and growing. The Tree of Heaven grows by seeds, and the seeds all over the place. I was asked to announce one other thing by Michael Shikajian, Chair of the Environmental Commission. We've done on Milltown Day for a number of years, we've done electronics recycling. And Michael's willing to kind of organise this again. So we're asking people to bring their electronics recycling products up to 85 Washington Avenue, just up the hill here where the Watershed Partnership headquarters is. And you just put everything there in the parking lot, just in the lower part of the parking lot. And then Michael and Public Works will get this all organised. But any electronics recycling, please bring it. Week from Saturday, October the 5th.
October 5th.
Yep. Thank you.
Very
Isn't
good.
isn't the electronics
all-
recycling
the whole time,
facility
Alan?
behind
All
the
day?
senior center?
All day.
Okay.
Where storage is.
Well, I was sorry about
Why not just
Anyone else?
Up there, up there.
greater visibility?
Phil Zambrana, 40 Van Loo Avenue. So I just come up to thank Councilman President Dixon for agreeing to pass the legislation for the marketing plan, affordable housing. Seeing as Councilwoman Kerber's not here today, you need 4 to pass such an important piece of legislation. But it also brings up to mind, Councilmember Valinsky, when you say you're not in favor of affordable housing, it makes it seem like you're targeting or you're mentioning certain folks who are not welcome in town by saying affordable housing, and you're not in favor of affordable housing. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. It has nothing to do religion. Both signs, any sign going in and out of Milltown says "Welcome to a friendly community." For someone who's running for council, for someone who's running for mayor, that's really not the most Christian thing to say.
Anyone else? Seeing none, open council comments.
Just
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, sorry. I would just like to thank Councilwoman Mayer for going up to the freeholders meeting and representing this town for a special need for us, hoping they can help us out with an emergency that we've had. She took her own time to go over there and voice Milltown's concerns, so I wanted to thank her for doing that for us.
Thank you, Nick.
Anyone else?
Yes, so, and I'll just say thank you for saying that. If you don't get any help if you don't ask for it. But I wanted to follow up on Milltown Day is Saturday, October 5th, 9 to 3 at Gloria Bradford Park. The Milltown Revitalization Committee has been working diligently to prepare. The rain date is on Sunday, October 6th. There'll be a lot of vendors, a lot of events, so please come down and support our town that we love on Milltown Day.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'd just like to respond back to the one audience comments. My disdain for affordable housing is not anything to do with ethnicity or not being a welcoming community. It's more about how the policies of affordable housing laws and regulations are being shoved down our throats. There's plenty of folks in town that have affordable housing situations. They're more than welcome. They're treated as Milltown folks regardless of race, creed, ethnicity, religion, any of that stuff. And I take offense to someone even trying to imply that I am against any one particular or the other. But quite frankly, I just don't like the way that the state can suddenly change regulations on us, and we just have to eat it. And they don't look at some of the other things that are going on in town with rental properties that we have. So that's why I voted no on that.
Anyone else?
Well, that's state and federal, correct?
Yeah.
So you can send a letter to Ben Carson if you have any questions about that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to echo Councilman Legati's sentiments about Councilwoman Mayer. Nice job going to the county. It's not an easy thing to go to the county to ask for money. She stood up there like a trooper, basically laid out our plight to the county, and I think we're gonna get some good results. But to Councilwoman Mayer's point, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So there's nothing wrong with taking a shot. And she took a shot, and I think it's gonna work out. So congratulations, Councilwoman Mayer.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, with that mayor's comment. I really don't have a whole lot. I'd just like to just remind everyone, Mr. Godber had gotten up to let people know the day of Milltown Day, October 5th, Saturday, all day long, electronics recycling. Get your old TV sets out, your computer monitors, all of the old electronic stuff you got in the house, your old Emerson radio from the 1920s that your grandfather left you. Get all of this stuff together, bring it down. Let's get it out of town. Otherwise, it ends up
in the dump if they sneak it in there or somebody throws it in the woods. So let's not do that. Take the time and bring it down. And on a final note, as a personal note, I'd like to thank everybody from town who reached out to me upon the passing of my father, Ken Stever Sr. He was a great guy, loved Milltown, did a lot of great work in this town. His sons did a lot of stuff here too. And he's going to be greatly missed. But I'd like to thank everybody in town who remembered him. He retired, moved out of Milltown 30 years ago. And he and my mom have really enjoyed their retirement time down in rural Virginia and enjoying the country. So again, for those who remember him, thank you very much for your support and your love. And with that, I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So bad.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Legati. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night and thank you.
We should have wished Dorian well. I forgot to say, we should have said Dorian.
She got sick from Texas.